Okay, trying to get the handle on this phase of this teaching here with the animal project and in an online, which is an online intervention with a blended classroom piece in language arts integration across themes of science and math in grade 3, 4, 5, all 3, 4, or really children of age grade 3, but really operating more at a grade 1 level, some of them. Others working at grade 4 or 5 level. So these kids all in the same class. Some of the kids having extra learning issues and behavioral things going on. So what can relatively work for this group? And for the ones who are behind, I got some exposure to the Elkanen boxes, and those are very effective. And I struggled to try to split the class because I couldn't seem to provide something for everyone else. If I did that, I had a hard time finding the resources that were challenging for the more advanced ones. And I struggled with that on a daily basis, and until now, until this day. Meanwhile, there was a psychological assessment done on some of them at the slower end who are more behind academically, have greater learning challenges. And one thing the psychologist said was something that has been going on for me for a while, this idea that the assistive technologies can really help these kids. And I strongly believe that because they still need to see a bigger picture than the linearity of their learning difficulty. Because learning to read, literacy, in some ways is very linear. We go through it in a logical, linear, systematic way. That's one of, let's say, the best ways. And it seems to me it still has to be integrated in a larger picture of, the use of language in general and our relationship with language in general, and our, getting a little bit of a grip on our own cognitive skills and deficiencies and tools and strategies and possibilities. And also in the conversation with the psychologist came out very strongly that, these kids, because of their developmental delays, their self-esteem might be much more challenged. And, vicious cycles of inability, of a conviction of inability can be established. Well, they are, right? Lots of kids. This is true of all of us in general, right? We all need to see that we can do more than we think we can do and get challenged, and then do more than we thought we could do. So that's the basic idea instilled. So whether they can read per se in a conventional sense or write, or to what extent they can, is important to address in physical ways and experiential ways. And I just really see clearly that we want to implement some technology here as well to fill up a kind of gap that seems just to be part of the whole situation. It seems like the technology just needs to be part of the solution here. So I wasn't pushing it, but it does seem to make sense now. So what that is looking like is in a Google Doc and also in Seesaw, we've got some kind of, not exactly interrelated assignments, but some maybe some structured assignments in these two software platforms. So in the Google Doc, we've got, starting now, coming out of a Google Classroom, is an animal what I'm calling the Animal Project. And the idea basically, or a good part of it, is from that book by Giasson about the reading, learning reading, and the Shema for the animal. And I like that it was, in that case, it was predators, appearance, behaviors, habitat, and then the child will go in and fill in those main ideas around an animal, or it might be a bird, or to be determined exactly. And Lenora and I were talking about this, and she gave the really good idea of, that they come up with keywords at first. And that's going to be great. So the keywords on those topics, things that they might know about. And they could even do a dinosaur if they wanted to, or a bird, or a worm, or I guess any living creature, basically, in those categories. So it's going to be a very interesting project for them. It's going to be over a period of, many periods. It's something that they work on for a while, and they do their best work according to some hoops that will give them the jump through, like filling in sentences in that Google Doc. I'm liking the idea of them making question headings in a question, and then a paragraph that answers the question. So that's one assignment. And another one, so that's one assignment. On that Google Doc one, with 14 kids and writing in different drafts and so on, there's really no way that I can be monitoring every word of that, nor do I want to. On the other hand, we don't want to limit that talk, but we wanted to have due diligence. And also we want to take advantage of that social learning space. So for those reasons, Katiana and I were talking about how to get, Lenora too, how do we get those kids to monitor each other, to monitor each other, basically. And over time, it's looking like there's, for example, 3 criteria. Is that other person, like to be in groups, let's say of 3, you need to validate with 2 other people. And that is that the person who did this work? Is there some work that got done? Is the person showing some work? Is that the person that did it? And then are they showing some progress? And I think that's it. So they answer those 3 questions, let's say affirmatively, and then were there any red flags? Was anybody doing anything illegal, or just call it red flags? Like, was there something that we should know about, kind of thing? And then that we would check those, like spot checking, I guess, or something. Or that's where parents really could come in. It'd be great. Maybe, would it? I don't own this. What is the role of parents in this period? It seems like if parents could get involved in this, that would be beautiful at that level, for parents to get involved in monitoring, especially for these 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds. That would be lovely, I think, as long as the parents could be taking a light touch, and maybe it's a better place for grandparents. Anyway, Katiana pointed out the importance of limiting the scope of this as well. So the default scope is that I'm going to monitor their projects, and I need to figure out what the commenting is. I think in a Google Classroom, they can comment in each other's docs, and they have, so they comment in 2 other people's. Good, so we can do that much for this project, and they have the keywords, and they say something about the keywords, and then I will go in there, and this is a very nice way to develop these ideas in this, and I've done this already a little bit in the grade 5-6 class where it's much easier, is to follow up with their writing, just presenting what student X wrote the other day in their Google Doc, just present that on the board with the projector and go through and comment and make corrections, and reserving the right to do that, and they're fine with that. And Katian actually suggested that I record it, I believe. And so I can record the feedback, I guess also using Seesaw. They like that. They're very interested in following those conversations. Much to my surprise, they seem to really enjoy that. So I think that's a good way to reinvestissement, to bring the concept back, to rework the concept. In the Seesaw side, it's less written literacy per se, although Seesaw does have a written component, which I feel, well, anyway, I'm inexperienced with it. I'm interested also, though, in the recording, the video recording. And for example, they're going to read the cardinal and ordinal numbers in French, first up to 60 and then from 60 to 100. And that's actually rather difficult. Those are actually rather difficult tasks, and I think it'll give a very good benchmark for their language abilities, these kids. Reading pronunciation and their fluency, and also their number sense. So that's going to be a very good assessment piece, I think. Another one, I've asked our brother-sister team to find time to give us a comedy routine. And there too, there's a lot of language arts outcomes to be addressed through comedy, like considerations of audience and purpose, and also language use. And in their case, they do have a natural talent, I believe, in that kind of thinking, let's say. I think they both have a performance ability in that kind of area, which they could go ahead and develop, and just to see. And also the notion of putting together some language for intention, specific audience in mind, or with a specific intention and specific format. So that's going to be really great. There's one more, or a couple more. There's more on the fact families. Oh, I feel very frustrated about the math and saddened, actually. But anyway, fact families of 60, that would be a written one. And bring in the degrees there. That's a good one. The degrees of the circle and angles. And then the cards. And with the cards, I feel frustrated that there's not a ton of practicing going on. Seems like pulling teeth, and I don't know. I know it's a question of structure and routine and infrastructure and all that. And I've just been very frustrated. I can't help but think of Kumon and Kumon type approaches, which I saw in Asia. I just can't help but think of that as being a more humane way to do math. Anyway, we need to take a apparently more not ethnographic, qualitative approach. Then there's I guess lastly, there's phys ed. And that there too is a fascinating parallel approach, because talking about track and field, I asked clearly for help, and apparently parents are going to step up and help. with track. So what I would like to do is bring in a strong record-keeping math integration for this, where we bring the computers out and they are keeping track in spreadsheets of their progress, basically, for at least some of that time. If they cry about not being able to run and throw and jump, not having enough time at school to do that, maybe they can do that at home. At school, we can do some educational part about that. And that, I think, would be interesting, because they're very jealous about their phys ed. With yoga, we are making as concrete of measures in yoga as possible. So what I'm working with is at this point, 4 different foot positions from yoga and from martial arts. So 2 feet together, 1 foot ahead, feet parallel, 1 foot ahead, back foot at a 45-degree angle, and on both sides. And then horse riding stance. Those 4 positions as being some standard footwork positions applicable to different sports, and they're from karate and yoga. So, and then adding some arm and adding some other movements, but those 4 positions where they have a yes-no kind of format, and they're in a group and they're evaluating each other in a yes-no basis. What I'm imagining there is maybe a noteboard, a clipboard with some kind of paper, some kind of spreadsheet, some kind of matrix, names and results and check boxes, or some kind of spreadsheet type thing like that on paper, and the paper and the clipboard would go out into the field, and back at the school that information would be transferred into one of the computers and les ordi, and each group would have 1 computer for the group to use. I'm not sure if that's groups of 3, although I'm thinking maybe it is groups of 3, or I was thinking of the larger groups, so that the grades 5 and 6s could be brought in as leaders of those groups. Maybe they're like squads where there's actually 2 different groups, but the grade 5 or 6 is still the team lead of that squad. And then, the difficulty is, it seems like a good idea, but to establish that the training of that and whatever paperwork will take some time. This is going to be going against a grain or a current of people wanting just to have fun. So I gotta scale that back. But actually the footwork one, I think the footwork one actually is maybe the way to do it. Then for each of those activities, like throwing and running, maybe I just ask, what about the footwork? And just that's Mr. Mike's take on phys ed. Meanwhile, if the parents can get the kids doing all the running and throwing around and stuff, that's awesome. So I'm hoping that's going to work. That's the plan for phys ed, and we need a plan for that. Coming up to this tournament, I wish their tournaments were on like math facts around here, or verb conjugating or something like that. And I'm going to try to get the parents involved. I have asked Katiana, could we send home, a request to review math facts, and I'd also like them to review verb conjugations if it's not too much trouble dans les familles francophones. Chez les francophones, les parents peuvent pratiquer les conjugaisons de quelques verbes Oncomer. That's what I'm going to be asking for. So that's where I'm at. I don't have a go forward plan as far as communicating anything else, but I'm glad to be telling both Katiana and Lenora where I'm at with this anyway, and thanks for your interest. And please let me know what you could do to help. How's that? Well, maybe in a form, but at least in a very concrete, descriptive way, judgmental way. And the idea being that seeing it, if that can become a handy routine, efficient and positive, then it would be great if we could move some of that thinking into other sports like track. I think would be very interesting to do tracking one's track. I've never done this, but from what I understand, it's really like what the creme de la creme do in the NBA, where they're actually tracking specific results. Apparently this is really going to be strong. And didn't these kids win a badminton tournament already this year? So I think the footwork thing is really legit. Maybe not in the short run, it's a bit of a sell. But maybe, well, so the strategy is, okay, you're using computers for this. Yes, it's classroom, but it's also, you actually have to go in editing spreadsheets as teams, led by the oldest kid in the group, in their groups of 5 or 6. So that seems like a pretty good one. Everyone will learn about spreadsheets. I think everyone will realize it's legit, and plus then they can learn a lot from doing that. They can learn the teamwork, and let's try that. So that's maybe like, I don't know, once a week. See how that goes. So there we're going to need, what is that going to look like as far as those activities go? And in general, I have this sense of parkour, which I think is kind of a centers approach, obstacle course-ish kind of way of thinking about it, where they're going through the various stations, or I'm not sure. I guess that is what parkour is. I should look it up. I think I've been doing that all along with phys ed, or thinking of it that way. And I'm wondering how we define what a successful thing is. Do they all have to throw and run and jump and everything and do their daily best? Or is it a strong invitation? Or I guess that is what I'm offering now. I don't know if they're going to be supportive of that. I'm really realizing how influenced I am by what I saw in Taiwan, because, you know, in Taiwan, the way they approach an activity like a sport is, it's not about having fun. It's about doing it properly, doing it for the benefit. It's not about having fun per se. It's just not about that. You know, having fun is what you do at recess on your own time. It's not learning, you know. They don't think of it as needing to be fun. So I'm actually trying to take it in sort of a third direction, where it's neither fun nor drudgery, but it's interesting. And it needs to be examined and learned from, dissected, reflected on, I guess is the fairest and best way to think of it. So that's it's a very high level way of looking at it. I'm not sure if people are going to resonate. So scaling it back as much as possible. What's the minimum viable client for this part of it? Maybe only maybe this only applies to the yoga part. Probably. And they could learn some positions. Yeah, they could put together some yoga routines. They could. Something like that. So so that's where we're at. So it would be in all of these things, actually, everything that I've talked about here today. All of the first stage here is simply establishing that beachhead, introducing the projects. That worked well with in the grade 5 and 6 class to do the accomplished person, where they didn't have to finish it right off the bat. I just put it out there that they would finish it by the end of the year, start working on it. So this is going to change the whole dynamic as of tomorrow, because once this is in place, then technically, or whatever, something like that, they can use the computer anytime to do that project. And they can express themselves with that project, so they should get on with expressing themselves and working on stuff. So let's see what they do with that. And then there's some science and some social. Which is going to be classroom based. Anyway, well, I'll say about those too, an idea where we're taking texts, and then those who can are making questions from the text and looking, let's get them analyzing paragraphs. This is for the grade 4s who are able to do that. And then presenting that in some way to everybody. So I want to give them lots of freedom somehow, or they could just type it in. They could type it in. They could type it in. Or they could use text-to-speech. I wonder if they could do that. So it seems like this week is partly about getting established, like making a beachhead, making a landing in the environment of Google Docs and Seesaw. And that has a certain look in the calendar and in the day routine. It looks like maybe 2 periods a day with OD. So that's a different mindset. It's difficult. Anyway, but anyway, this is the plan. This is the plan so that we can bring everybody into, an engaging and authentic kind of space where their skills, they have a chance to demonstrate their skills. Yeah. In fact, that footwork. So yeah, footwork and spreadsheet. That's what I'm going to say as far as throwing a ball goes, or throwing a shot put, or jumping. I'm going to be saying, what's the best footwork for that? I mean, I don't know, but I think that's probably among the best possible questions I could ask about any of the track and field sports. So let's pass it over to these young people and see what they come up with. Now, as far as other adults being involved, I believe there's some kind of permissions that would be required. And maybe we would do that. I need to find out what Google Docs or sites can do as a blog environment, but there is a blog environment in Seesaw that the parents could be invited to. And I need to come to my own conclusions about that. So that's where I'm at with all of that. Lenora, I don't think this is really saying exactly what we talked about, or maybe it is. It's a summary and update of where I'm going, what I'm doing with this, my moving forward position from here. I guess I need to write some of this out for Katiana if I'm going to do this.